Hey guys, welcome back to Film Feature 43. Today I'm going to give you my list of the 10 dumbest movie decisions that I think take place in movie history. Let me know in the comments if you think I missed one or if you know of a dumb decision that I didn't list that you think might deserve to be ahead of some of these that I have on the list. So for my list, I'm going to start with the least dumbest decision that I think relatively to the dumbest decision. So without further ado, let's get into it. So for number 10, my 10th dumbest decision is bringing King Kong into New York City. For this list, I'm talking about the Peter Jackson version of King Kong, where they bring him pretty much into Broadway, right in the middle of town, and kind of show him off as an attraction, or whatever films before that also kind of follow that same plot line, taking him from Skull Island and dropping him in the middle of New York. Not so much the Godzilla vs. Kong, because they had different reasons for bringing him to the mainland. So in the film, it first takes place on Skull Island, and we see the damage that this 25-foot ape can do on that small island. So we think it's a good idea that maybe we should bring it into the most populated city in the world just as an attraction. The reason that it's not higher on my list as dumber decisions is this is 100% something that us as humans would do. As humans, we bring deadly animals into major cities all the time. I mean, even in New York, in the Central Park Zoo, they have grizzly bears, which is right around the corner from Broadway. And in the Bronx Zoo, which is about a half hour away, they have elephants and crocodiles and tigers. So these deadly animals are right in the middle of our city today. They're just not going to cause as much destruction as a 25-foot ape, but we still bring deadly animals in these situations all the time. So I feel like this is something that as humans we definitely would do, so it's a little bit higher up on my list. My number 9 decision is trying to fit yourself through a small doggy door to get away from a serial killer in the movie Scream. Let me set the scene for you. 2 of your classmates have just been murdered, one of which is Drew Barrymore, that they hung from a tree, and they
put her liver in the mailbox because I heard that they found her liver in the mailbox.
A man in full Halloween costume, including a mask, corners you in the garage of your boyfriend's house, and what do? If you're Tatum Riley, you smash a few beer bottles on the freak's head, and you try the door to the main house a little bit, and you immediately run over to the dog door and try to squeeze your body through it. This dog door has no possible way that a human can fit through, and this dumb decision leads her to not only being killed by this world's strongest garage door opener, but turns her into this weird plastic doll thing, as you can see right here. The reason that this is not higher up on the list is because in a moment of terror, you might make a stupid decision like this. I don't know if we could really hold it against her, so this will be at number 9 on my list, and not any higher. Number 8 on my list is giving the world's deadliest security weapon to a teenager in Spider-Man Far From Home.
Hello, Peter. I am Edith, Tony Stark's augmented reality security and defense system.
So Tony Stark had the foresight that he might not make it through Endgame. So he decides to give one of his most powerful weapons to somebody.
So he made you for me?
No, but you have access to all of Tony's protocols.
He doesn't choose Pepper, who he trusts to be his wife. He doesn't choose his head of security, who has been his head of security since Iron Man 3. But he chooses a teenage kid who he doesn't even know is going to be alive by the time that he's dead. This weapon is so deadly it nearly wipes London off the map.
I have access to the entire Stark Global Security Network, including multiple defense satellites.
And Tony is entrusting it to a teenager who was dust in the wind 5 years ago that might not even exist. And yes, Peter did prove himself in Spider-Man Homecoming and a little bit more in Infinity War, but he's still a kid, and he's technically not even alive when Tony has to make that decision. So I think this is a pretty dumb decision, but with the bond that they have, I guess I can't put it any higher on the list than at number 8. My number 7 choice is choosing a mouse over a human child in the movie Stuart Little. So the Little family wants to expand their family. They don't want to have another kid or they can't have another kid. I don't really remember that off the top of my head, but they decide to adopt, which is a noble cause. They go to the orphanage, and instead of picking one of the 567,000 kids who are in foster care in 1999, they decide to pick the anthropomorphic mouse that will live 3 years max.
Really, George? This is your new brother?
You look somewhat like a mouse.
I'm not saying that pet mice don't deserve a nice home, but as previously stated, there are hundreds of thousands of kids in foster care who are looking for a home. Mice only live about 3 years, so now in 3 years' time or less, they're going to have to explain to Jonathan Lipnicki that his brother's dead, and he's going to have to face that at such a young age. And on top of that, they have a cat. And if Tom and Jerry have taught me anything, it's that cats and mice don't get along.
Oh!
Whoa!
Snowbell! Drop him right now!
You spit Stuart out this instant, Snowbell. Spit him right out.
But the reason this is only number 7 is, I guess, to be fair, this is a magical mouse with the voice of Marty McFly, who can drive a car and drive a boat and skateboard, and maybe, since he's magical, will have a longer lifespan, and they can use him kind of as a sideshow act to make a little bit of money on the side. So I guess you can't fault him. It's an oddity, and that's what people seem to gravitate towards. So maybe that's why they chose him. Maybe it wasn't altruistic to begin with, but that's why it's not higher on my list. Number 6 on my list is revealing John McClane's identity on the national news to the entire world in the movie Die Hard. Now, if you've watched any of my videos before, you can probably tell that Die Hard is one of my favorite films, but this is one thing that always kind of did bother me a little bit. It's a very dumb decision. John McClane just wanted to
Come out to the coast. We'll get together. Have a few laughs.
When 13 terrorists interrupt his wife's Christmas party at the Nakatomi Plaza, it's up to John McClane to take them out one by one, except for Trevette from Walker, Texas Ranger. John McClane's wife, Holly, doesn't go by the name McClane, so she's safe. Even if the terrorists know that the guy who's taking him out's last name is McClane, Holly Gennaro isn't going to be in their crosshairs. Until the journalist Richard Thornburg goes to John McClane's house and reveals to the world the identity of his wife and his kids and his housekeeper, and shows a picture on national news of them together, essentially putting Holly directly in the terrorist crosshairs. To be fair, it is Richard's job to break news stories. He kind of went about it in a shady way, but I mean, he's played by the EPA inspector that released hundreds of thousands of ghosts onto New York City, so putting the life of one woman in danger really is small potatoes for him, I guess. My number 5 choice for dumbest decision is digging up Jason Voorhees' body in Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. By the time the Friday the 13th Part 6 has come around, Jason Voorhees has killed 34 people. That is up until he is killed by Tommy Jarvis in the final chapter. But by the time Part 6 rolls around, Tommy Jarvis is now full grown, and he can't leave well enough alone. He's having hallucinations, so he decides to dig up the body of Jason Voorhees to burn it. The reason that he's digging him up is to cremate the body, but before he does that, he gets angry and shoves a rod into the lifeless body of Jason Voorhees. Lightning strikes the rod, bringing Jason back to life, and not only bringing him back to life, but giving him supernatural powers in the process. To be fair, cremating the body to make sure it doesn't come back is fine, I guess. It's not really something that I would do, and I guess it was to help his mental healing, but shoving a rod through its chest then led to Jason being able to kill another 111 people in the Tommy Jarvis continuity. So his dumb mistake in moment of anger of stabbing him in the chest with a lightning rod essentially really led to the death of over 100 more people. My number 4 pick is reading the Necronomicon in the Evil Dead 2013. So a group of friends go to a cabin in the woods. No, not that cabin in the woods. Yes, that cabin in the woods. They find a book wrapped in garbage bags and barbed wire in a basement hatch that's covered in blood, with dead cats hanging from the ceiling. So, all in all, pretty inviting. They should probably read that book. No red flags here. At least there's no notes in the book saying, leave this book alone, don't read it. Oh. Well, at least it's only one note. I mean, they could have missed that. Oh, there was multiple. Okay, never mind. It's pretty stupid. Well, at least maybe he can't read really well. What's that? Oh, he's a high school English teacher. Oh, okay. Well, then he should have knew better. His inability to follow directions led to the death of his friends and ultimately himself. So, all in all, pretty stupid decision. At least the original group, the book was read from a tape in the original Evil Dead movies. It wasn't directly read, and the warnings weren't sketched all across the book. So at least we can give them a pass. My number 3 choice is having a baby in the movie A Quiet Place. So the world is overrun by aliens that can literally hear everything, and they attack based on their hearing. They don't really see anything. So what are a parent of 3 kids, one of which just were killed because of making too much noise? What should they do? Have a baby, you say? Well, I mean, at least babies are never really that loud. I mean, how loud could they possibly be? It's only as loud as, they can be as loud as a chainsaw. So, probably not the best idea. I guess, to be fair, they want to have a normal life, and that's the best way to go about it in their minds. I just think it's really a pretty dumb decision. My number 2 pick is getting into a swimming pool surrounded by electronics in the movie It Follows. So what is the best way to kill a murderous walking STD that only you can see and seems to be pretty well invincible? Climbing into a swimming pool surrounded by stereos, bug zappers, blow dryers, and other electronic devices, and have your friends shoot blindly at an entity that only you can see? Is that your answer? Because that's exactly what they do in the movie It Follows. What could go wrong? I mean, it's not like the entity's going to throw the electronics in the swimming pool at you, and your friend is going to shoot your other friend because he can't see the entity, and then the entity's going to get into the pool and almost drown you. I mean, that couldn't possibly happen. There's really no excusing this one. It's a pretty much a really stupid decision. Almost number 1. If number 1 wasn't sticking not one, but both of your arms into a razor box trap in the movie Saw 2. I do realize that most of these choices on this list are from horror movies, but you can't really have a horror film without having stupid decisions. That's like one of the biggest tropes of horror movies, but this one has got to be the dumbest. So Addison's a drug addict trapped in this house with other convicts where this nerve gas is in the air and it's killing them slowly, and they have to play Jigsaw John Kramer's games to get out with the antidote to save themselves. First off, she's just seen a man get his eye blown out by a gun, a woman get thrown into a pit of needles, and a guy get burned alive. And the first thing she does whenever she comes up to her trap is she throws away the requisite Saw tape that gives explanation to how to beat each of the traps. She then decides to, instead of inspecting the box that is in front of her, shove her arm in the clearly trappy hole in the clearly trappy box in order to try to reach the antidote in front of her. After this arm gets stuck amongst a bunch of razors, she decides to then shove her second arm into the trap, completely getting her stuck with both arms straight up in the air. And if she had a third arm, she probably would have shoved it right up in there as well, into a third hole that doesn't even exist because she's that dumb. And granted, maybe the nerve gas is messing with her head a little bit, but if she would have just examined the box, she would have saw that the key is in the lock right on the other side of the box. Probably the easiest trap to escape from in any Saw film, and that's why she made it as number 1 on my list. So that's my list. Like I said before, let me know if you know of any dumb decisions down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.